Susan asks, is there any advantage to the buyer as the interest rate is always high? So we did cover this, but I want to make sure that we cover this again, because you guys got to make sure that if you're doing this, it's all about providing advantage to the buyer. That's how you're going to get this deal done. So what's the advantage to the buyer, Mandy?
So I'm the buyer, okay? So what's the advantage to me as the buyer? Less capital down. If I've got financing restrictions due to self-employment, due to maxing out on mortgages, due to debt servicing because of some stuff in my past, then I don't have to go to the bank. I don't have to ask the bank for that. So it's a way to be able to get through financing loops. Benefit to me, honestly, it positions me into I'm a strategic investor. I know how to offer that deal. I'm talking my agent through to the other agent. Super funny story. Started off, and a mentor of mine was like, you got to ask for seller financing. You always got to ask. So there was this listing, and it said seller is interested in vendor financing, something like that. So I picked up the phone and I called the agent. I was like, hi, yeah, your thing says that the seller's interested in a VTB. And he said, yeah, what kind of terms would you like? And I was like, I'll get back to you. And I hung up because I was like, I didn't even know, they said yes, but I didn't know what terms were going to be beneficial to me. So there was still some learning in all of this. So when I was able to negotiate my first one, I realized that a benefit to me as the buyer was that I just went up a level on my ability to be able to negotiate and make sure that a deal is going to be beneficial for me. So those are kind of the benefits to me as the buyer.
Excellent. Yeah. And I'll just really briefly piggyback on that. I don't mind, as a buyer, I don't mind paying 10% interest if I'm going to make money in that deal. I don't mind paying 15% interest if I'm going to make money in that deal. That's what anyone who's new here, you have to condition yourself to think like an investor, not like a consumer. Don't look at 10% interest rate and say, holy shit, I'm going to go bankrupt. 10% interest rate you can't run a business like that. Well, you can. Businesses pay 10% interest rate every single day. They use that capital to make more than 10%. So pay 10% all day long if your deals are producing 30, 40, 50%, even if they're producing 25%. The benefit to the buyer is they make the 15% off of somebody else's money, right? Mandy's paying 10%. She's making 25 total. That means she takes home 15% without having to put her money up. That's the benefit to the buyer. Okay, Mandy. So we talked about the benefits to us. We'll call it us, the buyer. We're buying a property and we want somebody else to put up the capital. But let's say I'm the seller. You're the buyer and I'm the seller. Michael's looking to sell a property. Why would I give you seller financing versus saying, no, Mandy, go to the bank, get the money, give me the chunk of money. That's what I want. Why would there ever be a benefit to me as a seller to have you do seller financing? Let's go there because you flag that as important. It's so important.
It's really important. And I know we've kind of touched on a few little spots. So a lot of times the sellers have owned these assets for a long time. It's been a major part of their life. It's been a major part of their retirement fund, their finances. And they really don't have anything that they're set to do with their money. So if you offer them a VTB, they only pay tax on the amount that they cash in that year. I think they've got 5 years to be able to defer capital gain payments to you as the new buyer. So it actually puts them in if they're selling their portfolio, it's one way for them to defer tax and not be hit with it in the year that they're selling their asset on a major spot. The second reason is that it's giving them another form of passive income. So they were used to the cash flow from this property like we've discussed, and now they're going to be able to have passive income from you, the buyer, paying them as a private money lender. Another huge benefit in that exact scenario is that they are secured on an asset that they have been familiar with for 20 years. So if you as a buyer are like some young punk and unable to be able to, do what you said you were going to do, or life happens and the seller happens to take over possession of the asset again, they're like, well, I already know the thing inside and out. So it's actually an easier property than for me to secure some asset down the road that I don't know anything about. So there's some major benefits to the seller. And again, it's just another way for them to be like, they were a strategic investor and they're still an investor. There's still that stigma of being able to say, when I'm able to hold financing for a seller, for a buyer, I'll know that it's like the end, like the continuation of a real estate cycle. So there's a lot of benefits to a seller to be able to hold that financing for a buyer.
Yeah, I agree. And so I'm going to talk to my sellers for a second here. Let's build on what Mandy just said. Picture this: you're selling your property. You've had it for 10 years. You're happy with it, but you just want a little less management. You want to spend a little more time with your family. You want to be a little more passive. So you're selling the property. You might be moving it into private lending or private equity, which is, if you guys have heard my story, it's what I've done over the last 8 years to 10 years. As certainly the last 5 years when my first son was born, I've shifted my income property equity. I've shifted all that capital into the more passive stuff. So you're selling a property. You want to shift to passive. And so imagine you sold the property and you said seller financing available, because you're okay with just getting paid every month. That's what you want. You don't need a big check for 400 grand. You're just going to find somewhere to put it in private lending anyway. Now you got to find a deal, qualify a buyer, qualify a property. So Mandy just said something brilliant. It's like, okay, the property's qualified. You've owned it for 5 or 10 or 20 years. You got to qualify the buyer, but I'm less concerned with the buyer because I know I can get the property back with a power of sale if somebody doesn't pay me. So I have the property, it's qualified. I don't want to do any of the work. I put in my ad, seller financing available. Now, instead of selling it for $500,000, I sell it for $520,000. I get $20,000. I make $20,000 with this one tip I'm giving you guys. At least I get $520,000 for it, because now my pool of buyers opens up. It's not just the regular pool that has to get bank financing. Now all these new people can buy this property. And if you know supply and demand, the very simple macroeconomic, if more people can buy it, demand goes up and then price goes up. So talking to my sellers, if you offer seller financing, if you just need that monthly interest payment, you will almost always get more money for the property than if you sold it regular way, because more people can buy it. And then you're going to get that money anyway. They're going to give it to you in 3 years or 2 years or 5 years. So amazing strategy. If you were selling 5 properties at $500,000 and you got $20,000 more, you just made $100,000 extra by just putting there, we'll offer seller financing. So powerful for a seller.